Hello, friends. This is Senior Pastor Ben Pierce coming to you with another one of our countdowns. We're at number 11 on the top 25 Psalms. Can you believe it? We're over halfway. We're making our way into that top 10, but coming in at number 11 is a Psalm that I think you could sum it up with this: God is great. And it, of course, is Psalm 8. Now, Psalm 8 is an amazing hymn written by King David. Now, David is going to testify to the majesty of God's name. Now, we don't have the exact background on Psalm 8, but in my mind, I picture David in his heart, or maybe he's thinking about to a time when he stared up into the vast skies. Maybe he was watching the sheep at night, and he stared up at the vast skies and pondered the greatness of God. I want to encourage you, pray this psalm. I pray that it causes us to look upward and then to look inward as we consider the glory of God. First thing we're going to see in Psalm 8 is, I want you to see in verse 1, how about God's splendor? This psalm begins with God's greatness. How majestic is your name in all the earth. He's trying to describe God's majesty in verse 1, and it's kind of like describing the Grand Canyon. You just got to take it in. It's speechless awe. I don't know if you've ever seen that. For me, it was Niagara Falls. When I saw it, I was just in awe. Now, the word majesty refers to the splendor of who God is. It's His perfect character as seen in the beauty of His world. Now, God has set His glory above the heavens. God's greatness, it cannot be contained by creation itself. So we see God's splendor. How about verse 2? We see God's strength. In His greatness, God uses the weakness of men to overthrow His enemies. It says, from the lips of children and infants, you have ordained praise to silence the foes. God uses the weak to destroy and to confound the mighty. But we also see God's sovereignty in verses 3 through 8. I love this. God's greatness is seen in His sovereign rule over His creation. And now God has delegated His authority to His representative, us, man, to rule over the earth. And He says, when I consider your heavens, the works of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you set in place. Now, here's the thing. David didn't even have a telescope, and he was amazed. The vastness of the universe is astounding. Think about it this way. If you could travel at the speed of light, that's 186,000 miles per second. 186,000 miles per second. It would take you 8 minutes to get to the sun. Now, to go from the sun to the center of the Milky Way would take you about 33,000 years at traveling at light speed. Now, the Milky Way belongs to a group of some 20 galaxies known as the local group. To cross that group, you'd have to travel for 2 million years. The local group belongs to the Virgo cluster and part of an even larger local supercluster, if you will, which is 500 million light years across. To cross the entire universe as we know it would take you 20 billion light years. All that, He knows the name of every star. He created it, yet He's mindful of us. As insignificant and small and weak as we are, He is mindful of us and He cares for us. I like to think about it this way. There's a story told of Henry Norris Russell. He was a Princeton astronomer, and at the conclusion of a lecture on the Milky Way of how large it is, a woman came to him and asked, if our world is so little and the universe is so great, can we believe God really pays any attention to us? I love what Dr. Russell replied. He says, ma'am, that depends entirely on how big a God you believe in. I believe in a very big God. So does David. And despite the vastness of the universe and the billions of people on earth, He knows us by name and He cares for us personally. Verse 9, he's going to end like he begins. He's going to talk about God's supremacy. O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. I believe Psalm 8 is a compelling call to worship. Every believer's ultimate priority is to glorify God. Now, how Psalm 8 begins and ends is how we can understand God's supremacy. It affects how we live. Men is weak and insignificant, yet we are created in His image. It shows value and respect to each other is how we should live and care for one another. This is not about self-deprecation or low self-esteem. It's about recognizing our rightful place in God's creation. It's about acknowledging our dependence upon God, our limitations and weakness, and our calling to serve one another. Really, Psalm 8 is about living in the light of God's love and His grace and His majesty, and reflecting that love and grace in our relationships to others. No, Psalm 8 definitely is not about how great man is, but more importantly, how graced man is. This is going to teach us to embrace humility in all that we do, and to always be reminded of God's great care for us. And of course, how great is our God. Until next time, keep seeking Him with all your heart.